This is going to be a really cool video, and this PDF is going to be available right below this video. Proof of work versus proof of stake. There's not any trainings out there really that I believe go into this in great detail, and it's something that you should know because proof of work and proof of stake are the two concepts that are massively adopted behind cryptocurrencies, and they existed before cryptocurrency ever did. Proof of work was originally published in 1993 and designed to prevent cyber attacks. Proof of stake was first suggested in 2011 outside of the cryptocurrency world and then brought into cryptocurrency in 2012 by Peercoin, actually. So I'm going to give you an analysis of proof of work versus proof of stake. Kind of going to bring up positives and negatives. You can formulate your own opinion about it. And then I'll actually talk about ways for you to actually start contributing in proof of stake processes so you can create income with that. So let's start off with proof of work. Once again, it was designed to prevent cyber attacks and originally published in 1993. Proof of work is simply a protocol. It's a requirement of any coin that is mined in order to accomplish two things. First of which, confirm transactions of already circulating coin. Got to make sure that they're legitimately sent and received. Got to validate that. Have to confirm that. That's where we get confirmations that come into play. Any coin that is mined, you might see with Bitcoin, for example, 1 of 6 confirmations, 2 of 6, or 2 of 3, and so on. That's what's happening there. So it has to confirm transactions of already circulating coin, and then 2, produce new coins. So the protocol of any coin that's mined is going to allow mining to take place to confirm transactions of already circulating coin, and then produce new coins as part of that protocol. Now, each different currency that is mined has its own proof of work protocol, has its own mining protocol as to how many coins it's going to produce every single time confirmations happen. So those two things are going to happen. Confirm transactions of already circulating coin, and 2, produce new coins. This requires computer power, tremendous amounts of electrical energy. It can actually take as much electricity to confirm, for example, 1 Bitcoin block, which takes an average of 10 minutes. It can take as much electricity to confirm 1 Bitcoin block as it does to power an entire American household for a day. So you're talking a tremendous amount of electricity. It requires an extensive amount of computer power. Now, in Bitcoin mining, miners are rewarded for confirming 1 megabyte worth of transactions. So they're working to confirm 1 megabyte worth of transactions in a block. Now, depending on how big the transaction be, this could be 1 transaction or hundreds and hundreds or several thousand. Transactions are bundled together into what we call a block. This is where the blockchain comes from. And then miners work to verify the legitimacy of those transactions and compete to win the block. So what's happening is a whole bunch of transactions get sent out there, hundreds and hundreds or thousands. Every single miner, every single one, repeat, every single one in the entire network has to grab those transactions. The whole entire network. It's got to arrive at a general consensus. They have to agree, right? So the whole entire network has to grab this pool of transactions, pull it together, plop it in a block, and start validating it. And how that's validated is through the concept called proof of work. It's through mining. So transactions are bundled together into a block. Miners verify the legitimacy of the transactions and compete to win the block. One miner out of all of those miners, millions of them, billions of them, trillions of them, one miner who arrives at the right answer first will be rewarded for winning the block. Example, win the block, get 6.25 Bitcoin. As more and more people start participating in mining, it achieves a couple things. More and more energy is used to confirm Bitcoin transactions. That could be seen as a negative. It also could be seen as a negative as more competition. That's definitely a negative as far as having a chance to be rewarded, Bitcoin, for example. The positive being that it becomes more trustless. It becomes more honest. As more and more people contribute to Bitcoin mining, for example, or any coin that's mined, the network grows constantly. It's getting bigger and bigger, which means the information has to be spanned out throughout even more of the network. It's a growing network, so it's got to be distributed more across the blockchain, more across this public ledger, and it becomes less susceptible to hacks, less susceptible to dishonesty, and it becomes way more secure. But out of that, it gets more competitive and it gets more costly. So one miner who arrives at the right answer will be rewarded for winning the block. An example of that is currently, as I'm making this video, the block reward is 12.5 Bitcoin. That's a lot. So a miner is going to win 12.5 Bitcoin. Now there's mining pools where a whole bunch of people have basically created an association, or what you refer to as a mining farm. A whole bunch of people that have gotten together, pooled their money together, invested in mining equipment, and then when they win a block, they distribute that out. They divide out the winnings. You get half a Bitcoin. You get 0.4 Bitcoin because you invested less. You get 2 Bitcoin because you invested more, and so on. And they kind of create an association to bundle up and have a greater chance of winning a block. Currently, the block reward is 12.5 Bitcoin as I'm making this. Now, as it gets harder and harder, as the process of mining and confirming transactions becomes more competitive, and there's such a sophistication in the network, if you will, the mining reward, the block reward, will become less. It essentially halves. It used to be 25 Bitcoin. Then it went down to 12.5. The next one's going to be 6.25. And then from there, it'll be 3 1/8, and so on. And it'll keep cutting down as it becomes more competitive and the network gets more sophisticated, okay? So proving the work is done by using computing power, computer processing power, to generate what we call a nonce. It's a number only used once. This nonce must be equal to or less than the target hash. The target hash being the hash of the previous block. So all you need to understand about blockchain is, you can go back to the basic video I put together towards the beginning of this training on blockchain and how it works. Anything can be in a blockchain. A blockchain is simply data. It's a way of electronically sending and receiving data that can't be tampered with. Once it's uploaded into the blockchain, it can't be changed. Thus, it's not very prone to hacking. It's very secure. Well, the data is simply computer coding. You could upload anything. You could upload a car into the blockchain, and the computer coding would convert that car into a digital signature. So when you take that into consideration, if you have 2,000 transactions in a block, all different transactions, the wallet addresses change every single time, the dates at which they're sent and received change every single time, the amounts change every single time, who's sending it, who is receiving it. So you've got all this different data. All this different data produces a different digital signature for each set of data. So each block has a different digital signature. So all a miner is doing is locating the previous block, the most current block in the blockchain, and then they're taking the new set of data and they're working to basically reverse engineer that data to come up with a number that is equal or less than the hash of the previous block. That number is referred to as a nonce. A nonce is a number only used once. Miners' computers are literally just throwing out all these guesses, trying to generate a number that is equal or less than the hash of the previous block. And that's what allows it to tie back in the new block into the previous block, thus updating the blockchain. So proving the work is done by using computer processing power to generate a nonce, a number only used once. This nonce must be equal or less than the target hash, which is the hash of the previous block. Now, the whole goal really is generate as many nonces as fast as you can, and hopefully you'll get one right at some point. Hopefully you'll get one right nonce at some point. Now, if you get one right nonce at some point, you might win. I didn't say you will win. I said you might win. You might win. Everyone mines, many will be right, one will win. That happens with everybody, every single block. Every single person mining Bitcoin is going to work on the next block. Right now, as I'm making this, there's millions and millions of mining rigs trying to validate the next Bitcoin block, trying to pull all the transactions that were just sent right when I snapped my finger. They're all trying to compete at it. Everybody mines. Many will be right. One of them will win that block that's being worked on right now. More miners equals more honesty, as I said earlier, because it's all information has to get spread out across the ever-growing entire network. More miners equals more honesty, equals more competition, equals more energy costs. My point being, guys, is that when you're mining, tons of miners are going to come up with the right nonce. They're going to generate a number that is equal or less than the hash of the previous block so they can tie back in and link the digital signatures. So what they're doing is they're going, okay, here's valid data. Here's the next set of transactions that need to be confirmed. Poof, we're inserting it right into this block here. Now we're going to start working on this block. Now I've got to locate the previous block in order to make this block confirmed. I've got a block here, it's ready to go, but my computer's got to make a guess at the number of the previous block. And how it's going to do that is it's got to come up with a number that is equal or less than the previous block's hash. So I've got the block right here, I've got all the transactions, I've got the data, I've got the block, but now I'm guessing. And the computer that guesses best, that guesses the fastest, is going to be the one that wins, right? That's what it comes down to. It takes a tremendous amount of electrical energy and a tremendous amount of guessing. That's what proof of work is. Now, I'm just going to show here a little bit farther down here what this would look like. So, you've got proof of work. Here's a hash. This is what a hash would look like, okay? A hash is a 64-digit hexadecimal number. Hex meaning 6, decimal meaning 10. So I'm going to repeat. A hash is a 64-digit hexadecimal number. So this right here, I actually copied this from blockchain.info. When I made this video, this was the last block in the Bitcoin blockchain. This was the last hash. So the current block, as I'm making this video right now, this second, the current block is this 64-digit number. That 64-digit number is the hash of the current block. Now, there was a mining operation called, I will tell you what it's called, we'll look. There's a mining operation here called Antpool. It's a huge mining farm. They confirm like a lot of the Bitcoin transactions. They were the last ones to solve the last Bitcoin block. They were rewarded with 12.5 Bitcoin. They generated a number called a nonce. The winning nonce for this block was this number right here. This number has to be equal or less than this hash right here. A hash is once again a 64-digit hexadecimal number. This is the digital signature of the last block. So all of the data that went into that block, the send address, the receive address, the time, the amount, all of that data, whether it was 300 transactions, 1 transaction, or 3,000 transactions, all of that data produced this digital signature. And the winning miner produced a nonce that just so happened to be equal or less than this hexadecimal number right here. And because it was equal or less than, they were rewarded with the block reward of confirming that block. Now, there's likely that hundreds of other, thousands of other, tens of thousands of other miners generated a nonce that would have worked. The thing is, and they probably generated it at the same time. So what happens usually, not always, but usually the protocol will then decide, okay, it's a matter of what miner has done the most work in the past. That's going to be the one that gets rewarded. So when I said earlier, everybody mines, many will be right, one will win. That's what I'm referring to. You can have thousands of people guess right. One of them will win, and the protocol will dictate that if a whole bunch of people guess the right nonce. So you're probably wondering, what's a hexadecimal number? Hex refers to 6, decimal refers to 10. So when you look at numbers, you got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 options. 0 through 9 is 10 different numbers, okay? So that's where you get your decimal. A hash can have any one combination, any combination of those 10 digits. It can use a 0, it can use a 1, it can use a 2, it can use a 3, it can use a 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Those are the numbers. Those are the numerical numbers you're going to see in a hash. A hash is going to usually have 8 zeros at the beginning. It's going to have 8 zeros at the beginning at a minimum. So when generating a nonce, you can actually code your computer to know, okay, you're not going to generate any numbers that have a number other than 0 for the first 8 digits. The first 8 digits definitely have to be a 0. So you can throw any other guesses out of the equation. That'll save some time. But most miners know to do that, right? So that's the first thing. The nonce is going to be a 32-bit number. That refers to memory, okay? We're just getting a little technical here. A hash is a much larger memory number because it's a bigger number, and it also has letters in it. So it's 256 bits of memory. A nonce is 32 bits of memory. So your computer is literally just guessing all the time, as fast as it can, throwing numbers out there. Hopefully one will be right, and hopefully that right number you'll arrive at first, and hopefully there won't be a whole bunch of people that also arrive at that number, and hopefully if there is, you've done enough work in the past to win. Hopefully. That's proof of work. Now I'm going to break down this hexadecimal. So it's a 64-digit hexadecimal number, of which the first 8 digits in the Bitcoin protocol are going to be zeros. Now, the hex refers to 6. So notice how we've got digits in here. A hash can have an A, B, C, D, E, or F. So it ends up being one of any 16 combinations. You've got your numerical numbers, 0 through 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That gives you 10 options for your numerical numbers. You get 6 options for your hex numbers. That's why the term hexadecimal is used with hashes. An A would be equivalent to a 10. A B would be equivalent to 11. A C, a 12. A D, a 13. An E, a 14. An F, and a 15. So you can see this is 0, 0, 0, 0, a whole bunch of zeros. 4, 5, E. That E is a 14. That F is a 15. 0, 8, 4, 8. That D is a 12. That E is a 14. And that C is a 12. So you can add up this number. It could be literally all zeros and then an A. It could be all zeros and the last 3 could be a 27B, which would be 2711, right? And this nonce simply has to be equal or less than this hash. And if your computer arrives at generating a nonce that is equal or less than this hash, you may win the Bitcoin block or whatever block it is on the coin that you're mining. Now, if everybody else and many other people, for example, arrive at the same nonce as you or arrive at another nonce that also could be a valid answer, then it's going to come down to a matter of favor. Who mining Bitcoin, who mining Ethereum, who mining whatever has done the most work, and the protocol will typically choose the person or the miner that has done the most work in the past. Be the first to come up with a nonce less than or equal to the hash, and you might win. Lots of guesswork. This means that you need to have high computing power, or what we call in the computing world a high hash rate, to mine successfully. Now, obviously, as new technologies come out and more computers come out with better processing power and faster hash rates and greater hash rates and all this different stuff, you could find yourself constantly changing out your mining rig so you are always optimizing, because what worked 4 months ago or last week or last year or yesterday or 5 minutes from now might not work 10 minutes from now, 1 hour from now, 1 year from now, 6 months from now. Simultaneous answers happen all the time. If this happens in a network, we'll typically do a majority rule. So if you get a simultaneous answer with a whole bunch of other people at the same time, if this happens, the network will typically do a majority rule, in which case the miner that has done the most work will win the block, and all other valid blocks that would have been valid will become orphan blocks and will not be added to the blockchain. So say you and 2,500 other people arrive at the right nonce, at a nonce that will work, and you've all got that same data. You've all been working on the same data. One of them is going to win, and all 2,500 other blocks that could have been will just be orphaned. They'll never be added to the blockchain. They'll never be added to the public ledger. And they're gone. That's mining. Now, I'm not trying to be biased in any way at all, but I do want you to see the positives and negatives and understand. Currently, as I'm making this, the difficulty of mining is like 1 in 3 trillion. Difficulty is a number used, and we can go into that later, but it's like 1 in 3 trillion. That's the difficulty of mining right now. Now, the upside of mining, the upside of the proof of work concept is the security of it. I mean, can you imagine if 1 ounce, 1 fraction, 1 piece of data is changed, or somebody tries to manipulate it, the digital signature, this hash, a hash is a digital signature. You should get that and write that down. A hash is a digital signature. That would be changed, thus making every subsequent block since then invalid. It would cause a disturbance in the network. It would get immediately rejected. And so as more and more people start mining, it becomes more trustless. You don't have to worry about hacking because all of this information is getting spread out even more. It has even more people, more miners, more computers to validate the legitimacy. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is it's more competition. You're competing against everybody else that has really good mining rigs, has low temperature efficiency, is operating in an environment where electricity is cheap, where it's negative 10 degrees, where they can put their mining rigs inside an igloo, where they have tons of fans on them. It gets competitive. It gets so competitive that Iceland had a mining operation where 600 rigs were just stolen. It gets competitive. More miners equal more honesty, equal more competition, equal more energy costs. It's up to you. It can be effective. It can be profitable. Got to know what you're doing. Now let's talk about proof of stake. Proof of stake was first suggested in 2011. Purecoin, which is PPC, was the first to use it in 2012. They were the first to adopt proof of stake, and then Shadow Cash, and then NXT, and then Blackcoin, etc. Coins are not mined. They are minted or forged. The coins have already been produced. Therefore, when you're doing proof of work, you're doing two things. You're confirming already circulating coins in those transactions, and the protocol is rewarding you with generating new currency, new coins, a new amount of that asset. Well, with proof of stake, that asset already exists. It's already pre-mined, quote unquote. It already exists. It's already there. There will not be more. Okay? So coins are not mined, they are minted. The coins have already been produced. The purpose of confirming blocks are only to confirm legitimate transactions and not for producing new coins. Because of this, block rewards are usually not in the form of coin. They can be, but they're not in the form of coin usually. It comes down to the particular protocol of that proof of stake coin. But instead, a percentage of the transaction fees are rewarded to the winner of that block. Minting does not consume vast amounts of energy. You can mint with a tablet, you can mint with a phone, you can mint with a PC, a desktop, anything like that. Creators of the new block are chosen in a deterministic way based on wealth. It comes down to a matter of how many coins do you own. And you're not competing against everyone else, you're competing against yourself. You want to buy more coins instead of buying more mining rigs and switching them out every 6 months, for example. And once again, I'm not trying to be biased. You develop your own opinion. There can be profits in both. Okay? People that own the coin can participate in forging blocks by putting their coins at stake. All right. In order to validate blocks, you essentially give up your coins to the blockchain. In return, you're rewarded with a percentage of the transaction fees of that block. If you stake and purposely validate a false block, you will lose your coins and forfeit the rights to participate in the future. See? So future staking, you'll forfeit that. If you try to be dishonest, you'll forfeit it. So that becomes a costly mistake to make. If you want to be dishonest in it, go ahead. You're going to lose all your asset. The staking process is essentially an escrow. If you don't hold up your end, you will lose. And if you do, you will win. Something to look up would be the Ethereum Casper protocol, because proof of work obviously has its own positives, the security of it. The negatives is the inefficiency with electrical energy and the amount of energy it takes and the competition. It's got its positives and negatives. Well, proof of stake has its positives and negatives. What if you wanted to hack it? What if you wanted to be dishonest? So Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, the lead developer of Ethereum, has come up with the Casper protocol to keep people honest, to exploit proof of stake's weaknesses and just solidify it and make sure that it's not a problem in the future. So you might want to look up. You might want to look up Ethereum Casper protocol. If one wanted to attack a proof of stake system, you would have to own over 51% of that asset, in which case the market would respond with a very sharp increase in cost, making it pointless to attack. I mean, think about it. If you've got this huge supply and then all of a sudden half of it's gone, it becomes a scarcity. And scarcity, another word for scarcity, is a rarity. And if something is rare, like a gem, like platinum, like gold, it becomes more valuable. It becomes an increased value. So then you'd want to go obtain that asset and you'd have to pay even more. It just wouldn't be worth it. So that's proof of stake. Less energy, anybody can participate. You're not competing against others, you're competing against yourself. There are flaws in it. What about security? Ethereum believes that they've created a Casper protocol that will exploit that and help to make the security not an issue in that. And you know, it isn't necessarily any less secure than proof of work is. They both have their positives, they both have their negatives. There are coins that are proof of stake, there are coins that are proof of work, And proof of work in blockchain, go outside of cryptocurrency. Proof of stake in blockchain, go outside of cryptocurrency. Once again, this chart will be below. Now let's briefly talk about coins that you can stake, and then we'll get on into the next module. So coins that you can stake: Dash you can stake, Neo you can stake, Pivx you can stake, OK Cash, which the tick is OK on that, Nav you can stake, Stratus, which is Strat, you can stake, and Redcoin you can stake. Nav is actually, or excuse me, Pivx is actually a fork from Dash. Dash, I believe you have to own like 3,000 coins or something like that, or 300 or whatever, and it's like a few $100s a coin. You have to have like $300,000 worth of Dash in order to stake. Redcoin, being a coin as I'm making this video, is a 1-cent coin. You can own a lot of them and start staking, and it won't cost you a whole bunch. So you just do your research on coins that I can stake, and then you look at what's the minimum requirement by that coin's protocol to stake. And you can simply look up coin, so say I went Redcoin staking wallets, and you'll look it up on Google right there. It'll show you wallets you can download right onto your computer, right onto your tablet, right onto your phone, and you can start staking with any proof of stake coin. Each will have their own protocol as to how many coins you must own, but a lot of them can produce good returns. 4%, 5%, 10% annually, which is pretty cool. So gosh, I mean, if you put in $1,000 and you got $1,100 at the end of the year, it's a nice passive income. But imagine if you had $1,000 in 10 different coins and you're producing 5 to 10% on each one of them a year. That's pretty cool. And then to also think, when that coin is massively adopted, and not only have you accumulated a 10% return in a year off of its current day's value, but what if it does what Ethereum did in the past couple years and goes from $35 to $1,000? Does what Bitcoin did and goes from $300 to $20,000? Then you've got a whole nother exponential increase in your income, and you've obtained more of that asset. So hopefully now you understand proof of work versus proof of stake. And if you want to go ahead and print this PDF, it will be available right below this module. We'll see you in the next video.